Howdy y'all, we're here in my backyard. I was doing some putting practice and I thought to myself, you know what? There are not a ton of videos out there on the internet that teach people how to putt. So I decided what would be better than putting together a video of 3 ways for you to start making putts as soon as possible. So with that in mind, let's jump right in. I didn't use one of my tips. Before we dive into any of the tips to get you started, the first thing you need to know if you're new to the game of disc golf is that there are tons of options when it comes to putters. What we have in front of us isn't even scratching the surface in terms of options that are available. And so I want to show you the biggest difference between most putters, and that's the bead. So what do I mean by the bead? You can see here that there's 2 different putters, and do you see that tiny little lip right here on the edge of the putter? That's called a bead. What the bead does is allows the thrower to have a little more grip on their putter, and it gives a nice resting place. It also causes the disc to be more overstable in its flight, which means that it'll turn left more easily. When it comes to putting, you're going to hear about something called the circle. Now, the circle is not referring to like the circle of the disc or anything like that. What it's actually referring to is a 10-meter circle around the basket. And most putters inside of the circle are going to throw pretty much the exact same way, and that's where most of your putting is going to be done. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose as long as it feels good in your hand. For me, I like the AVR3. It feels so good in my hand and it comes out so smooth, which takes us to our first tip. The first tip is pretty simple, and that is you're going to want to commit to a grip and a style of putting. What do I mean by commit to a grip? How I usually find my natural grip on the disc is I spin it just ever so slightly in my hands, and wherever my fingers rest is your natural grip on the disc. When you can commit to that grip, it's going to give you enough control that the putter is going to come pretty easily out of your hand. So, once you have your grip, now you get to pick your style. A quick clarification, spinning the putter in your hand does not mean tossing it into the air like this. That's not going to help you find your grip. When it comes to your putting styles, the first style is the spin putt. What this means is that you're generating a lot of spin on the disc, which allows it to shoot forward in usually a straight manner, unaffected by the wind. You're going to draw it into your core and extend straight out to the basket. The second style of putting is called push putting. Push putting is where you bring the disc low and let gravity and physics do its thing. Think of push putting kind of like granny shots in basketball. You're going to bring it low and swing it onto an arc so that it drops into the basket. Our second tip applies to both styles of putting, and that is using your legs for your putt. If you just use your arm, as you can see, it's going to create some inconsistent releases, and you won't have as much power, which will make it a lot harder to putt from greater distances. By just putting your legs into your putt, you can see that it creates tons of power, even when you have terrible form. Let's look again at the styles and see how our legs play into it. For the spin putt, even though some of your power is generated from your arm and snapping the wrist, you can add a lot of consistency and power by utilizing your legs to propel you forward and giving you balance. If you choose to use the push putt as your option, your legs are actually going to squat for a moment and then extend upwards and diagonally towards the basket, which creates that momentum and power so that you don't have to use your wrist to spin. I see this question get asked a lot to the professional players, and that's what angle do you putt on? And it's really up to you. You can choose to putt on an Anheuser angle like that, or you can put it on a flat or hyzer angle. It really is up to you and what feels more comfortable. Putting is all about comfort. Now, what's happening to our wrist specifically during the putt? This is an example of the spin putt. You'll notice that the thumb, think of it like a clock. It starts out at 9 o'clock, it comes back towards 6 as you pull it into your core, and then it extends to 12 o'clock. It's incredibly important to make sure you bring that disc to your core and extend directly to the basket. Now, your wrist during a push putt isn't going to move as much. In fact, most of the spin comes from exploding your fingers. Think about when you used to hold something in your hands and then you would just pop your fingers out instantly. That's exactly what you're doing during a push putt. You're going to keep your arm nice and straight, pull it down slowly, And then as you come up in the release, you're going to pop your fingers, and that's going to cause the disc to spin flat, and you're going to follow through with your hand, raising it kind of high in the air. This follow through puts it on that arc that's going to go up and come down. Now, you're looking at this basket thinking to yourself, okay, well, where am I supposed to aim? And that's going to lead us into our third tip, because it's not what you think. You aren't going to aim directly at the basket, because if you do aim at the whole basket, sometimes you can miss right. Other times, you're going to miss left. Sometimes you won't miss left or right, you'll actually miss right low. Or you'll go too high and shoot right over the basket. Even if you're aiming at the whole basket, you can sometimes hit the chains on the right side and get lucky, or you can hit it on the left side and get lucky. But if you use our tip, you'll actually start hitting the center of the basket almost every time. So, what's tip number 3? Aim at a link or your line. What do we mean by that? You'll notice that the basket is comprised of a bunch of links. And so what I do is, I look at the pole and I count from the chain that's immediately to the right of the pole. I count 5 links down from the top, and that single link is what I'm going to focus on. For all my left-handed folks, aim at the opposite side. Picking this small target, what it does is it makes it so that when you miss, even if you miss by a foot, you're still inside the basket. You can see that that little twig is sticking out of our link, and it's in the dead middle of the basket. That's where I'm aiming. But maybe aiming at a specific link is too hard, so think about the line the disc is going to travel on, signaled by this branch pointing at the basket. You want to find a very specific spot to aim, and that's going to allow you to land on target. I've got these discs laid out at 5, 10, and 15 feet, and although it doesn't seem that far, your goal in putting is to find a comfortable distance for you, as short or long as that is. Even at 5 feet, if you feel comfortable with those putts, that creates a 10-foot radius around the basket from front to back, which is a pretty big target. When you feel comfortable with your grip, you've chosen your putting style and you've dedicated to it, and you start practicing that putt, you use your legs to add power to your throw, and then you aim at a specific target. With practice, you're going to be the one chaining all of these putts from 20 feet. So that should wrap it up for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and hope you start singing some more putts as soon as possible. If you guys liked it, feel free to subscribe and hit that like button below, and subscribe on other channels if you guys want to see more disc golf content. So thank you for following, thank you for watching, and keep throwing some discs.